Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to the third virtual Batch 70 event, seminar on Indian heritage. I'm Deepam Bhatia, 269, ex-Ajmer and Jaipur House. So, good morning, North America. Good afternoon, UK. Good evening, India. Good early morning or late night, Far East and Australia. Great to have you all. It was good to see so many of you at our medical seminar given by our batch doctors on 30th of January. For those of you who couldn't attend, we have a video recording hosted on YouTube as well as by Mayo. We are hoping that this resource will also help Mayo students who are interested in medicine and the areas covered by experts docs. So thanks to our docs last time around. Right, and so on to our agenda today. We start off with Dunlod, Jewel of Shekhawati. Bonnie is going to talk about the prominent local families as well as his equestrian interests promoting the local Marwadi horse bloodlines. Then we go on to Rathi Parivar, Marudhar Ki Ek Dharohar. That is Pradeep Rathi going to talk about his Rathi family heritage in the Maru desert region, particularly Pokhran and Biawar. Our third speaker is Yasharad talking about the protectors of Narmadaji, the saga of the Gohils of Rajpipla. So Yasharad is going to give us an overview of the Gujarati heritage and how his family, the Gohils, have been interwoven with this. Then, time permitting, we may take questions after each speaker or at the closing session. And finally, we will have our usual open fellowship session where we can meet informally. You will know our first speaker, Bonnie, as an honorable, larger-than-life character with a heart of gold. I joined Mayo later than most of you, and my initial memory of him is this tall guy with a stentorian voice calling the PE parade to attention. I can also recall his cycle polo initiative, Mayo, which led him later to represent Rajasthan and play internationally. Bonnie's love and passion for horses began as a child, which also led him to his devotion to promoting the indigenous Marwadi breed. He tells me that this started with his procuring Marwadi horses in the making of the film The Far Pavilions, which he then brought home. His activities on behalf of the indigenous breeds, along with his partner Francesca Kelly, led him in 1997 to set up the Indigenous Horses Society of India. As a keen horseman, Bonnie has represented Rajasthan and India in various equestrian events and as an office bearer for related organizations. From his Dunlod Fort family home, Bonnie started to organize horse safaris in the local countryside, and this is now a flourishing business. He has also been running Dunlod Fort as a heritage hotel since 1988. He also founded the Indo-International School for Underprivileged Children at Dunlod. So now, over to you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Deepam. A big hello to everyone. It's a privilege to be able to see all of you here and be with you. To start with, as we are going to talk on Shekhawati, a little bit of history as to how Shekhawati came into being. We are originally from the Jaipur family, that is Amer, before Jaipur came into existence. Our clan of Shekhawats starts from Maharaja Udaykaran of Amer, 1366. A little bit to explain how we came into existence was, as majority of the people know, in most of the ruling families or tikanas world over, it is the eldest who gets to be the ruler and gets the title. And this caused a little bit of confusion and a frustration to Balaji, who was the son of Maharaja Udaykaran of Amer, and he left Amer. He went towards Savai Madhopur side, took over some villages there, and started a small tikana, whereby he realized that what he was supposed to do was to breed horses and send them to the Maharaja of Jaipur for his forces, which made him feel, why am I still doing that? And from then onwards, his son Mokulji decided that no, we need to move out of this area and go somewhere else. The question which was very important in their mind was which direction to go, because east, west, north, south of Jaipur were all the same cousins and same brothers of the Kachawa family, which are four at that time, which was Rajawati, Nathavat, Thangaroth, and Narukas. So they decided, where are we to go from here? So they decided, okay, let's cross towards the north, because Fatehpur, Jhunjhunu, Loharu were all the Nawab areas in those times. I am talking of the year 1443, when Mokhalji's son Rao Shekha decided that it's time to take over these principalities closer to Delhi, which were ruled by the Mughal Nawabs. And he started conquering the area. And thereafter, from 1433 to 1488, Rao Shekha is the man who captured most of the areas which are now today under the name of Shekhawati. From him, the clan took the name Shekhawat from Rao Shekha, and the area came to be known as Shekhawati. Now, Rao Shekha ruled till 1488, and there is a lot of people between that till we come to the period 1685, when Sadul Singh ji, who was our direct ancestor, whose photograph you see here, he took over, and he is the one who captured most of the Jhunjhunu district. So in Shekhawati, we have Sikar, Jhunjhunu, and Churu. The three districts of Rajasthan form the Shekhawati area. Sadul Singh ji was the ruler who took over, and his son, he had five sons who took over all the villages in Jhunjhunu district, only in Jhunjhunu district. Kesri Singh, our direct ancestor, happens to be the fifth son, and between the five sons, what they did was to divide all the villages in such a manner that they were spread in an area when the boundaries of each ruler or each thikana was not consolidated to one place, because they felt that if they did that, they would be fighting one another. So the villages were spread out all over. The thikanas, which became important in those days, were Navalgarh, Mandawa, Alsisar, Dunlod, Bissau, which became the five main thikanas of this area. What happens now is that, having taken over these areas, the question was to keep it fortified, make forts, make villages, and ensure that the Mughal rulers do not take it back. For that, you needed manpower, you needed labor, you needed construction people, you needed business. And that's how this interesting aspect of the business families comes into existence. Business families, as we all know, are known as Marwadis, which does not mean that they are only from Marwad. Marwadis mean they are from Rajasthan. And interestingly enough, you will be surprised, families like Birlas, Podars, Ruyas, Kanodia, Singhania, Piramal, Modi, Parasrampuria, Goenka, Murarka, Junjunwala, Dalmias, and many others all come from the Shekhawati area. Goenkas are directly from the village of Dunlod. So, how did they manage to get these people to come and settle here? Was they had the land, the rulers had the land, and they said, okay, let's give the land to the business families and make a treaty with them that we will not tax you. We will not take any revenue from you for having come to our place and settled here and bring business to this area. That is how Shekhawati became prosperous. If you count the schools and colleges in Shekhawati, they are more than the rest of Rajasthan put together. Each family will invest here in the schools and hospitals, and that is why Shekhawati today is one of the most prosperous areas of Rajasthan. Now, how does the heritage of Shekhawati become that important from tourism point of view today? It is known as the Open Art Gallery of Rajasthan, in fact, of India. because as the business families did well and they got more business wealth, they had no option but to show to one another that he was getting richer and richer. They started making these beautiful Havelis and started decorating them with wall paintings and frescoes, which today are a absolute treasure for this area. And that is how each and every Haveli in fact, each village in Shekhawati has more than 100 Havelis in each village. So you can imagine there are thousands and thousands of Havelis beautifully painted in this area. Just to let you know a little bit of history about what I was saying about Navalgarh, Mandawa, Dunlod, we recognize after Rao Shekha declared Shekhawati independent. It was independent. The flags flew with the British flag and the Jaipur flag together till 1947. And thereafter, of course, things changed. But Sadul Singh ji had recognized the Maharaja of Jaipur as the eldest, and we always had alliance and considered him as the senior most in the family. That is why you will notice that in the Shekhawat clan, there is no title of Maharaja given to anybody. It is only the Maharaja of Jaipur who is the senior most among our family. And they, in return, had accepted to make the thikanas. They chose about 20 thikanas from Shekhawati, Sikar, Jhunjhunu, and Churu, and gave them the title of Tajmi Sardars, which meant that they were on a higher status and close to the court of Jaipur, which meant that if they went to court in Jaipur to attend the royal court, the Maharaja had to get up to greet them. He could not be sitting while the Tajimi Sardars walked into the court. And there is a system of nazar which you present to the ruler with gold coins or silver coins on the occasion of certain festivities. He had to be standing to accept it and not sitting as they were being given by the Tajimi Sardars. So that is how the history goes. I would now also tell you that since the time the families took over, the relationship with the people has been pretty close. And we have festivals, especially festivals of Gangor, the festival of Dashera, which are connected with the families. And they still, till date, are celebrated in their respective forts and villages, and the villagers get involved with them and with the family, and that tradition heritagely absolutely carries on till date. In 2005, when no government in India was considering this heritage concept to anything, I had worked on the plan to set up the first heritage village in the country. And I took help from about 20 students from Australia who came from the University of Architecture. And I hosted them for more than about a month, about 45 days. I hosted them in the fort, and they made the entire master plan, documented everything in the village. Now, of course, there are lots of villages coming up, but that was our first step. Now, these are the Havelis I'm talking about. Now, this is the Lalchand Goenka Haveli. Like this, we have in Dunlod itself nearly 200 odd or more Havelis of this kind. Now, this work I got it done from the intact people in Delhi. I got them to document each and every building of heritage importance in my village. If you see this example of two Havelis I am giving you, one is this Lalchand, and the next one on the slide is Motilal Goenka Haveli. Now, when these Havelis are there, you will see the description and the map. Each description gives you the time when it was built, who it was built by, what material was used to build these Havelis, and who are the owners, and what is the lacking situation in the Haveli today. Is it being looked after? Is it being destroyed? Is it broken? Or what should be done? So I have a complete list of more than 200 Havelis listed in a book by the Intact organization in Delhi, which I'm sure most of you are aware of. And we try and work on that master plan. We have each and every map separately done, but here I'm just showing you one combined map which explains all the commercial institutes, religious, residential, everything. Like this, we have maps made by the students of the village, which give you all the electric lines, the roads, the switch systems, the nalis, the roads, everything is given in separate maps, which we have mapped. And what we do today is we don't depend so much on the government for whatever they they do. But whatever contract comes from the government, we try and implement it as per our master plan. That is our planning. So we do it on our own. Our panchayat and the village, we do it on our own. We created a Nagrik Vikas Parishad, which is separately from the elected panchayat, and we all work together and we follow that system to keep the heritage alive in the village. In 1982, I worked with the Far Pavilions movie, as Deepam had just said, and I took over the horses from them after we worked. They didn't realize they wanted to take back everything to England, and they realized they couldn't take the 25 horses back because there was a ban on indigenous horses. That was my luck. I asked them, could I have these horses? And they said, well, let me think. And the director, over a drink, just turned around and he said, okay, Bonnie, you can have these horses at half the cost what we paid. And I was very happy. I took them straight away. So that's how my life with horses began again. At that time, I was working with as an executive officer to Rajmata Gayatri Devi, very popularly known as Aisha. Most of you may have even read the book A Princess Remembers. And so I was her business partner making daris. And this is one photograph where we used to manufacture these daris, which were taken, old designs were taken from palaces. And that is Jackie Onassis when she came to India on her visit when she was not, of course, Kennedy anymore. It was Jackie Onassis. And she turned around, just interestingly to let you know, she said to Rajmata, I'd like to go into town and see, because it was the Sakrant, it was 14th of January, and she said, I'd like to go and see kite flying. And she said, when I came in here to Jaipur first as the president's wife, I saw in the streets people making some sweets, which were like, the orange round things, which talking about jalebis. And she said, I like to eat them. So I told Rajmata I'll take her, but I'll take her in my own jeep. I can't go in an official uniform or a royal family jeep with their ignitia. So I took her around and I took her to a friend's house without telling him who I was bringing, and into the middle of the Jaipur walled city, took them right on top of the terraces to show the kite flying, and then got the jalebis for her to eat. So that's
क्या
just
बात
a photograph of remembrance from them. I had the opportunity of meeting a lot of royalty, a lot of people, because I was working with Rajmata. Met Prince Philip, Prince Charles, the Queen, a lot of sheikhs, because they were all royal guests. And thereafter, I started my horse safaris because I had these horses and I had to make something to survive, to make these horses survive. So I started the idea of horse safaris, which came to me from polo players. It was 1985 that I started the horse safaris, which went on for a long time. It was difficult till 1995, 10 years of trying to work with these horses. And I have to give full credit to my partner, presently my partner, who I first met in 1995, Francesca, who was a lady who had visited for the first time to India and came on a horse safari. That's when my entire life changed. And she was the one who gave me the concept of trying to make this breed internationally known. It happens sometimes we ourselves do not realize what we have and what we can do with it. But she gave me the idea. And this slide, which you see now, is the first horse safari, the first horse show which we did in on the grounds in Dunlod, with the first five horses which we had got. That is the stallion Gajraj, the middle one, and the third horse. These three horses have now bred, and from this we have a lot of them all over the world at the present time. We then started making an idea of trying to make a combined society. We met Maharaja Jodhpur, Gaj Singh Ji, and we told him about how we can put together an indigenous horse society of India, which I was the founder secretary. Maharaja Jodhpur was my founder chairman, and we started this society. And today we still are working under that umbrella of this society, working with the government internationally and nationally for the horses. Now, here you will see that the society had worked pretty well, and we managed to get the government to release postal stamps for all the breed of horses which were there. Kathiawadi, Marwadi, Janskari, Spiti, everyone. Now, this slide which you are watching is when Prince Charles came with Camilla to Jaipur on the Rajasthan Divas festival. 3 days before, this is interesting just to let you know, 3 days before the festival, the parade was there. I was told by Vasundhara Raje that the government, the cavalry cannot participate in this parade because he's not a government guest. He's on a personal guest, not a government of India guest. And therefore, I led the parade and a contingent of 25 of our horses, which you see here in front of the Vidhan Sabha. And that is when my first meeting with Prince Charles. We started with Francesca a concept of dancing with horses. Now, this is when Vasundhara Raje in 2006 got sponsored the show of Dancing with Horses. This was to create a sound and light show with horses, artists, musicians together live so that people could see what this horse was all about. And today, this show happens every 2 3 years. We were to do it last time in March, but Corona did not let it happen. But hopefully in 23 we will be staging, or 22 we will be staging this show in Jaipur.
Yeah, क्या बात
This is
क्या बात है भाऊ.
this is an interesting thing. As I was saying, the horses have got me to go all over the world. And this is a photograph at the Royal Stables in London when the Queen said for her Queen's Diamond Jubilee, which was in 2013, there was a press conference 2012 at Buckingham Palace, Royal Mews, and the only horse which was present for that conference was this Marwadi horse belonging to Francesca. His name is Dilraj. He came for this, and we were there with 18 countries, Commonwealth countries, participants, but the only horse which was allowed to be there for the press conference as a curtain raiser was the Marwadi horse, which was a great sort of a pride for us and India that the only horse available or present at that time was Dilraj. He incidentally is the most well-traveled horse. He went from India to Thailand, to Korea, to America, from America to France, from France to London, to Spain, and is presently in Spain at the moment. So he's a very well-traveled stallion. Now, this is the show which took place at the Queen's Diamond Jubilee 2013. Again, 18 countries all over the Commonwealth were there. Again, Francesca choreographed the show. These are the Marwadi horses at the show, which was very well attended world over and seen everywhere. It was unique. One of the unique things happened at this particular show was that the Marwadi horses with the dancers were performing, and at the back, if you see the white pegs on the ground, are the tent peggings. Now, this was very interesting because while this show was going on, at the background, choreographed by Francesca, was on one side the 61st Cavalry in their ceremonial uniform, and on the other side, it was the Pakistan president's bodyguard. They were cross tent pegging with their lances and swords while the show was going on. So this was a very unique time when the two countries together were performing at the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. We were then asked by the Queen to come for a little reception to Windsor Castle. And that is when we were told that there is a lot of protocol. You cannot say anything except, greet the Queen. You can't shake hands, you can't do anything. But Francesca had designed 5 scarves with the Marwadi horses on the scarf and the British connection to it. So we were supposed to just hand over those scarves to her, but I took the opportunity. Francesca said, we can't say anything, but I just did not say anything to her. But when the Queen came up in front and Francesca gave her the scarves, I quickly said, Your Excellency, can I open one for you to see? And of course, she said, yes. And that's when I opened the scarf, and the entire press was right there for this photograph, which became very, very popular in various magazines. On Francesca's left, you will see Gulabo, the very famous dancer, Kalbelia dancer in the country today. And thereafter, the 61 cavalry soldiers standing on the side. So this is the story of my horses, and I have been to Turkey, to Turkmenistan, to England, America, uh, all over these places, doing Kazakhstan, showing our Marwadi horses and working with them at the shows, thanks to the society and thanks to help from all our breeders and people who have been with us. At the end, I would just talk to you a little bit about the cycle polo, as it was mentioned. And as, of course, cycle polo is totally connected to Mayo. If you all remember, we used to play on Udaipur ground, and when we saw Gibson's Jeep coming around, we just ran off from the ground, and he very well knew we were all there playing bicycle polo. So it's been a very important game, totally dominated till today, I would say, by Mayo College boys, right from the time of His Highness Jodhpur to Maharaj Sarup Singh, Sobhag Singh, Vijay Singh, Madan Singh, from the famous Calcutta people, you will remember the Kishangarh brothers, Bijraj, Prithviraj, all excellent bicycle polo players, and they have continuously controlled the Cycle Polo Federation of India, which I joined as a player, played for India in '84 in England, and thereafter I became the joint secretary, and from there on to the secretary, to the vice president, and to the president of the federation. And I must say here that today, under my presidentship, we played 12 World Cycle Polo Championships. And out of these, we have 6 gold medals and rest bronze medals for India. We have never been out of the medal tally at the World Bicycle Polo Championships. Here we have Prince Philip playing bicycle polo in England, and then I had the opportunity, if we go to the next slide, we I was invited, Indian team was invited to England along with the American bicycle polo team on one of the charities horse polo matches in England, where Prince Charles, William, and Harry, Prince Harry, were playing. And we were told to play an exhibition game between America and India on this charity polo match. And thereafter, India played with England, and Harry and William both played the match with us. This is me handing over Francesca's book, the Marwadi book, which he wrote to Prince Charles. And in fact, that is the book which Prince Charles gave to the Queen, and that's how she fell in love with the Marwadi horses. So that is my story right from Dunlod up to the game of bicycle polo. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Thanks, Bonnie. It was a really fascinating talk, which I think everyone enjoyed. Excellent. Well, one day I hope to visit you at Dunlod to look at your library and archives. Just looking to see if we've got any specific questions. I had one, Bonnie.
Yeah.
Given the current pandemic and so on, how is it impacting your business and tourism in Rajasthan? It must have a big impact. Is the government helping, or how are you guys coping?
It's the most difficult time for tourism, especially in Rajasthan. The government has not been able to do anything. To tourism is the worst affected area in the work of business at this particular time. Last March, the corona started. It's been completely 1 year. We have been, especially for Shekhawati or Dunlod, I would say, without any business. Uh, I don't see that we would be able to open up till the next October 22. So it's going to be more than 2 years of no work. And for my horses, which I have 55 in my stable, I can lock up the rooms in the fort, but to keep my 55 horses is a big task, which we are still managing to do because we love them and we just cannot give them away to anyone. It's been a difficult time.
Great, Bonnie. Guys, please keep your carry on your questions. But let's now move to the next speaker, Pradeep Rathi. Well, Pradeep, I was first reminded by one of our batch. You were one of our first in the batch on two matters. Firstly, he joined the Mayo kindergarten in KG in 1958, aged 5 years, and his elder brother was already there. Anyway, secondly, he was also the first to get married in 1975 to Suman, his gracious, much better half. So so those are two Pradeep Rathi facts. And if anyone can dispute both being first in both areas, then it'd be good to know. Anyway, Pradeep says that apart from dedicated teaching, Mayo gave him exposure to all sorts of sports and extracurricular activities, such as automobile engineering, woodwork, metallurgy, clay modeling, and photography. I think we would all empathize with that. Also, very important to him was that he got to interact with boys from all walks of life and backgrounds, which helped him later in his life. So after leaving Mayo, Pradeep did his BCom and 2 years of law before joining the family businesses in shoe manufacturing and textiles in Biawar. The business is expanded to include a plastic blow molding factory, as well as a shirt, trouser, and jeans making unit in Okhla after his move to Delhi in 1984. Pradeep moved back to Biawar in 2004. Now, many of you will recall that in 2008 and 2009, Pradeep had two very major health problems. He faced up to his difficulties stoically and cheerfully and remains a spirited survivor. I think he's a great example to us all in this aspect. He now devotes himself to religious activities and philanthropy, actively taking part in Lions International. For example, he's involved every year with an eye camp for poor people with cataracts, continues to donate tricycles to the handicapped, sewing machines for poor ladies to run a secure life, laptops to poor meritorious girls, and installing refrigerator water huts for the general public. Pradeep will talk about his Rathi family heritage, and we know his family as welcoming and gracious hosts from our Mayo days. Suman and Pradeep accommodate our batch at our 25th batch anniversary. I know Ajay Dadwal has joined us, and I'm told that Ajay had a halwa eating competition and won, although he did have problems the next day. Perhaps Dad will enlighten us later on this incident. Suman and Pradeep hosted lunch for many of us, including me, at Biawar on our way to the 40th anniversary gathering. So we acknowledge your hospitality, Pradeep, to all our batch throughout the years. Thank you very much. So now over to you, Pradeep.
Hi, friends. I would greet everyone with a Vande Mataram instead of anything else. It's great to see you all this evening. We have had a wonderful talk from Bonnie, and of course, my talk would be pretty different from what he has talked about. And mainly, I have been asked to emphasize on the heritage of my family. So I have been collecting material about my family from various books and articles and write ups and certain magazines also. Today's talk would be mainly related to the fourth, fifth, and sixth generations. We are basically Maheshwaris from amongst what you all know as Marwadis. Maheshwaris have a recorded history of some 3,500 years, and our Aradhya Dev is Lord Mahesh. The known history of my clan starts from some 400 years back, which Seth Harkishan Das Ji Rathi, whom I may consider the first generation of my family, and Harkishan Das Ji, seeing no business opportunities in Pokhran, the atomic city of our country at that time, and our native place, he left Pokhran and went to a place called Nimbon in Maharashtra, which is about 1,000 kilometers away from Pokhran. And he started a very small business there. And he was blessed with two sons, Kushal Chandji and Mool Chandji, the second generation, who started a banking business there. And slowly they became the biggest Marwadi bankers at that time. The two brothers later separated business, and Kushal Chandji had various firms operating in Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Rajasthan. In Rajasthan, his firm came to be known as Thakurdas Khemraj. Kushal Chandji's son Thakurdas Ji, the third generation, took over the business after his father's death. Thakurdas Ji, of whom we know very little about, was then succeeded by his son Seth Khemraj Ji, the fourth generation. And this is Khemraj Ji, my great great grandfather. And he was a very exceptionally intelligent and a brilliant man. So he have opened several genuine pressing factories in Akot, in Akola, in Amravati, in Maharashtra, and in Raichur, in Karnataka, and several in Rajasthan. For various reasons, then he chose Biawar, which was a walled city at that time, as a place of his business. And he shifted to Biawar somewhere in 1885. He bought this present Haveli from the Shahpura Darbar, the Shahpura which lies in Bhilwara district. I am again very much surprised that how he could think of setting up a textile mill, which was the first in Rajasthan in 1887 under the name of Krishna Mills Limited. Uh, the mill at that time was employing some 1,500 workers. The entire machinery was imported by him from England, including a battery of 6 huge boilers, a big steam engine coupled with a generator as a captive power plant. However, Seth Khemrajji passed away in 1899, just 10 years after he had started the mill, at the age of 56, when his son Damodar Dasji, the fifth generation, was just 17 years old. Damodar Dasji was married at the age of 13 to Gangabai ji, a very iron-willed lady, also from Pokhran. After his elementary schooling in Pokhran, Damodar Dasji came to Biawar and passed his board exams with flying colors, and after which he left the studies and joined his father in business. Uh, being very intelligent and very bright, he also studied literature, history, culture, religion, and politics uh, from home tutors. It was because of his simultaneous training that he got from his father that he could control the entire business spread in Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Rajasthan at the age of 17 when his father passed away. Once he started handling the business independently, he realized that he could not run his business very freely because of so many restrictions by the Britishers. You know, the atrocities being committed on them by the Britishers, he had some sort of a thinking, and he made up his mind that he would become a revolutionary from then on. But with a goal in mind and with no guidance at that age, he became like a lion, a caged lion, wanting to do so much but couldn't do anything. But luckily, he soon found a mentor in Shamji Krishna Varma. Shamji Krishna Varma was a noted revolutionary who was extremely well connected with the top revolutionaries of the country at that time. Through Varmaji, Said Damodar Das ji came in close contact with the revolutionaries and the media of Punjab, Bengal, Madhya Bharat, and became very close to leaders like Dada Bhai Naroji, Mahamana Madan Mohan Malviya, and the old lion of Bengal, Surendranath Banerjee, Amrit Bazar Patrika's Babu Motilal Ghosh, Punjab Kesari's Lala Lajpat Rai, Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Arvind Ghosh, to name a few. Arvind Ghosh was the most influential nationalist at that time. Damodar Dasji then opened his coffers for the revolutionary activities and aided most of the above named leaders in their revolutionary movement. A very important incident that happened, which I have translated in English for understanding and which I would like to read, is that was the incident narrated by Pandit Sundar Lalji, who was the secretary of Lala Lajpat Rai. And I quote, Lalaji, who used to take monetary help from Rathiji for various national activities, sent me to Rathiji to fund my paper Kam Yogi. During my stay with him, I learned that Rathiji was a staunch revolutionary with a burning desire to overthrow the British regime. On my insistence, he joined the Bharatiya Krantikari Dal. It was Rathiji's great desire to meet the most revered revolutionary, Babu Aurobindo Ghosh, whom I had met earlier, uh, and I met him through Lalaji. Due to the constant vigilance of the British intelligence and spies, it was next to impossible to meet the great person. An absolutely secret plan was made with, and Said Damodarji and myself decided to go to Calcutta in 1908, where Sri Aurobindo Ghosh was stationed. This was the biggest risk Rathiji had taken. If caught, he would have not only lost his business, but also his life. Calcutta was also the center of revolutionary activities, and the activists were being hounded by the British Raj. It was with great difficulty and by Rathiji's constant perseverance that we could finally meet Aurobindo Babu. Ghosh Babu, after taking stock of the revolutionary activities in Rajasthan, asked Damodar Dasji to give shelter and provide for the basic needs of the revolutionaries in the safer havens of Rajasthan. Impressed by Aurobindo Babu's massive revolutionary activities, Damodar Dasji placed 1 year's earning of the Krishna mills at his feet, amounting to rupees 1,72,000 in the year 1908. Damodar Dasji then told Ghosh Babu, the shackles of our motherland should be broken. There will be no shortfall in the flow of funds from my side. Aurobindo Babu was so touched by that, he embraced him and could only say that Bhamashas like Rathiji, with Bhamasas like Rathiji, nothing can stop us from gaining independence. Well, then Damodar Dasji came to be known as Danveer and Bhamasha, and unlike other contemporary saints, as Bonnie has said in his speech, that there are a lot of saints in Shekhawati, yes, they were. And most of the states overtly or covertly supported the British, fearing for their life and business interests. But Sir Damodar Das ji opened his gates to the revolutionaries who were given jobs in Krishna mills under the guise of being laborers, and special dungeons were made to hide the revolutionaries. Both the dungeons were in the mills as well as in our Haveli. Soon, Rashtravat Thakur, Gopal Singh ji of Kharwa, Govind Singh Kharwa's great grandfather, became a very close friend of Damodar Das ji, and both were complementary and supplementary to each other. While Rao Saab looked after the training of the revolutionaries in the use of arms and making bombs, Damodar Das ji kept the funds flowing. He then came to be known as Param Desh Bhakt. The then Congress party, which of course was totally different from today's Congress party, at that time the Congress was only concentrating on gaining independence. So the Congress party had two factions, one the Garam Dal and the other the Naram Dal. Of course, the name specifies itself with what they were doing. Damodar Das ji was in favor and supported the Garam Dal, which believed in acting with force and with weapons. And sometime in 1914, under the leadership of Ras Bihari Bose and Sachindra Nath Sanyal, who formed the Hindustan Socialist Republic Army, planned to have an armed revolt in the country. They started recruiting revolutionaries to take part in this huge revolt in their native states. The date of the uprising was fixed for 21st February 1915, 1915. In Rajasthan, the core team was consisting of Damodar Das ji, who would finance the entire operation, including purchase of some 30,000 firearms. Rao Sahib Kharwa, who was entrusted with collecting the arms and ammo from all the Jagirdars, and also for training some 2,000 youth for this big revolt. The work of examining the old firearms was given to Vijay Singh Pathik and Charu Dutt Mishra. They are all very famous revolutionaries of Rajasthan. And the famous father and son duo, Kesari Singh Barhat and Pratap Singh Barhat of Shahpura and Arjun Lal Sethi of Jaipur, were to contact all the Rajas to request them to join this revolt at the appropriate time. All was immaculately planned, everything was on schedule, and everything was working out absolutely properly. Even the simultaneous uprisings which were to happen in Punjab, Delhi, and northern states and Rajasthan, they were all ready. However, the British were informed of these activities through some moles. As we know, always in Indian history, we've read that there have been lots of uh, moles everywhere. So these people informed the British people that something of this sort is going to happen. And on 18th February 1915, the British came down heavily on the revolutionaries, and the aftermath was unimaginable. The British also got hold of the cache of arms and ammo, and a number of activities were put into jail. Damodar Das ji continued to work tirelessly, relentlessly, selflessly, day and night for our freedom, for the society, for Hinduism, for education, and for saving the rich culture and art and heritage of our country. Damodar Das ji, as you can see him from your slide, was a very, very simple man. He always wore his Vaishnav tilak, his dhoti, kurta, his uh, angarkhi, a dupatta, and his pagdi. And all made from only from the Indian cloth. He was also very religious. We had a temple in Pokhran, we still have that, and the temple is run by the Nathdwara Paddhati, which we are still, by God's grace, still continuing that. And he would help all the branches of Hindus, Jains, Maheshwaris, other Marwadis, I mean, all branches of Hindus. He would help them very generously, and all the saints were really very fond of him for his generosity. He was also elected the member of Byawar municipality at the age of 21 in 1903, and later he was elected a member for life for his extraordinary work in the development of this town, where he had laid down the sewerage, the planning of the roads, the laying down of the water pipes, and yeah, he was liked by everyone in Byawar. He was a great educationist also. He himself spoke Marwadi, Hindi, English, Marathi very fluently. He propagated education, and he knew that without educating our people, we will never be able to stand, they will never be able to stand on their feet, and would always be ruled by the British. And so he opened a number of schools, monetarily aided many, and also opened hostels and libraries for students. Mahamana Madan Mohan Malviya came to Damodar Das ji in Byawar in 1912 for setting up of Hindu Vishwavidyalaya in Banaras, and for which, as per books, he gave Malviya ji some 11,000 silver coins as donation. He also donated a large chunk of land in front of his Haveli for opening a Sanatan Dharam school dedicated only to Sanskrit, which still stands as a proof of his dedication to education. He played an important role in uniting all the Maheshwaris and organized and attended many Maheshwari Mahasabhas and brought together the Maheshwaris from all over India. And he worked very hard, and he was a very known reformist, and he wanted to remove all the ills that were present in the society. He was called the Raja of Maheshwaris and addressed as Marwad Mukut, and was awarded the most prestigious Maheshwari award, the Maheshwari Ratna, posthumously in 2013. He laid the foundation stone of Arya Samaj in Byawar in 1911. Arya Samaj was mainly working towards the protection of Hindus and is opposed to Christianity and Islam. Arya Samajis stopped people from getting converted to other religions, and rather they converted them, brought them back into the folds of Hinduism. He was given a memento as remembrance of the foundation laying, which we can see in the slide. During the time of famines, which were quite regular in those times, he would send huge monetary help, food grains, and cloth from the mills to help these people. He was also invited to the coronation darbar in Delhi in 1911 to present him with a certificate for his public spirit and charity, for which he did not go under some pretext, since it was against his revolutionary ideology. However, the certificate was delivered to him through the chief commissioner of Ajmer and Mirwada. As a visionary, he started the Swadeshi movement in 1907, much before Gandhiji. The villages including Kharwa, inspired by his patriotism and his views on the use of Swadeshi goods. The villagers burnt all the British goods, from clothes to food items, and they also vowed to discontinue the use of British sugar and use Deshi Khansari instead. He got critically ill by the end of 1917, and any nationalist leader who went to visit him, he would only say one thing: "We want martyrs for the country." Damodar Das ji sadly passed away on 2nd January 1918 at the age of 36. This is again a big wonder that in the at the age of 36 he could achieve and could do so much for the country and for the society. We celebrated his 100th death anniversary in January 2018. A huge rally was taken out, the town was lit up, and huge billboards were put up all over Biawar. By God's grace, the noble soul was blessed by a visit of four great saints during these celebrations. Jagat Guru Shankaracharya of Puri, Rajendra Das Ji Maharaj, Govind Giriji Maharaj, presently the treasurer of Ram Janmabhoomi project, and Gurudev Sham Sharanji Maharaj of Nimbark Peeth, and we felt really very blessed. The only survivors after his death in 1918 were his wife Gangabai ji and a 6-year-old son. The young son also died in 1918, soon after Damodar Das ji's death, and he died in the influenza pandemic of that year. In all, Damodar Das ji had lost 6 children. However, as I said, Gangabai ji was an iron-willed lady. She controlled all the businesses herself. In 1906, another textile mill had come up in Biawar. And on the death of Damodar Das ji, and with no heirs, they sent an offer to her saying that we can buy Krishna mills. Gangabai ji got very offended, and she sent a reply to them that she could very well run her businesses, but in case if they wanted to sell their mills, she was a ready buyer for it. Well, despite certain social customs and social customs of adoption from within the family in those times, she took a bold step and adopted Seth Vitthal Das ji, the sixth generation, from outside the family in 1919 when he was 18 years old. Vitthal Das ji too was very intelligent, and very soon he picked up the business affairs. He did realize one thing, that his father had taken the freedom fight to great heights, but for him, the need of the hour was to concentrate on the businesses. Because in 30 years since the inception of Krishna Mills, the technology and the systems had changed drastically, and the textile market had become highly competitive. The mills needed immediate renovation of machines, and so he went on a back foot regarding freedom fight. He immediately went in for the renovation of machineries and soon set up another textile mill in Biawar in 1925. With his hard work and foresight, he brought back Krishna Mills on its feet, making its yarn and its cloth a premium item. He also became the honorary magistrate of Biawar, and as per the book Industrialists of India, which quotes, he was one of the most prominent bankers, landlords, and mill owners of Rajputana. He was also the president of the Mills and Factory Owners Association, and he was also a philanthropist and opened a charitable maternity hospital in Biawar in his mother's name, and he donated uh, freely for the construction of Maheshwari Bhavan in Biawar. Vitthal Das ji was married to Vidyavati Devi ji from the famous Harbilas Sharda family of Ajmer, the propounder of Sharda Act. He was blessed with two sons, Mukund Das ji and Gokul Das ji, my father, the seventh generation, and a daughter, Brij Kumari ji. That's my father and me and my father. Vitthal Das ji passed away in 1951 at the age of 50. Both brothers then worked hand in hand and enhanced the businesses, They set up a plastic shoe factory in collaboration with Batas to make their PVC range of shoes with German technology and fully automatic machines to produce some 2,500 to 3,000 pairs a day. They further renovated the mills with latest spinning and weaving machines and also made forward integration to the mills. Mukundas ji was blessed with a son, rather, he's blessed with a son, Vishnu, who's also an ex-Mayoite, and two daughters. And Gokuldas ji was blessed with three daughters and myself, which is the eighth generation. I got married to Suman in 1975, and we are blessed with three daughters, Shruti, Smriti, and Aditi, the ninth generation. And Smriti is blessed with a son, Arhan, who's the 10th generation. I feel really proud to have such a lineage, and I'm proud that my ancestors have been so industrious as well as revolutionaries who have played an important part in the building of a present India. Thanks a ton to Deepam, Anil, and Pradeep Bhatnagar for organizing this lovely get together, all of us. And very happy to meet all my old friends who are seen on the screen, and I would wish we all see each other by the end of this pandemic. Thank you, guys. Thank you for bearing with me. Thanks.
Thank you, Pradeep. It was again, we were lucky to have you, and it's interesting for your talk that took us through so many generations, but particularly through the freedom fight against the British, and then what I would was obviously the industrial revolution in India, which your family was a large part of. Your pride in your ancestry and heritage comes through very clearly. And now I'd like to move on to Yasharaj. Zach was at Mayo from 62-71 with a 3-year gap in between when his family was military advisor at the High Commission for Australia and New Zealand. I asked him what Mayo had taught him. Mayo taught me the value of friendship and comradeship, loyalty and integrity, he said. I imbibed the traditional values as well as the modern outlook at Mayo, which gave me the confidence to converse across the spectrum with kings, queens, generals, and politicians of all hues. I can also have a proper conversation in vernacular languages, Hindi and Gujarati, with villagers such as Kaskar's farming community without any feelings of superiority or indeed inferiority. Yasharaj graduated with an arts and economics degree from Baroda after leaving Mayo. He served in the Indian Army with the Armored Corps from 76 to 86, leaving as a major. He then joined the Border Wing Home Guards, rising the ranks as Deputy Commandant, and finally Deputy Inspector General and Joint Director of Civil Defense. In 2013, he joined the 1,000 megawatt thermal power plant in Bhavnagar before retiring in 2016 and taking up farming. So Yashraj, over to you.
Thank you very much, Deepam. It's an honor and a privilege to address you all. I would like to talk about the heritage of Gujarat, and especially the family history of the Gohils of Rajpitla. I remember when I was in Mayo, and thereafter even when I was in the army and other my government jobs, etc., people were not very sure about whether there were Rajputs in Gujarat. Even in Mayo, people used to ask me, your family must have migrated from Rajasthan to Gujarat. How come you are there? There are no Rajputs in Gujarat. So it was, and I don't blame them because there were hardly anyone from Gujarat at that time studying in Mayo. So not only that time, even early days. So because most of the landed families and the royal family, so-called royal family, used to go and study in Rajkumar College, Rajkot. However, from my father's generation downwards, the That time, the Maharaja of Rajpipla, my grandfather's elder brother, he somehow did not like Rajkumar College because he had himself studied there along with his generation. So he sent his son, that time the Yuvraj, to Mayo College. And thereafter, the rest of the Rajpipla family, we all studied in Mayo. And I will say very proudly that till today, now my nephew's daughter is studying there. There are 20 members of our family who have studied in Mayo College till date. So going back to the topic which I would be talking about, protectors of the Narabda, the saga of the Goels of Rajpipla. Before that, I will just give a brief about the origin of the word Gujarat. During Mahabharata times, actually, Gujarat was known as Anarchan, the land to the west. Thereafter, during the 8th to the 9th century, the Gurjara Pratiharas, they had a small kingdom which included Punjab, Rajasthan, and Gujarat, and they made Gujarat as their capital, the Gujara Pratihara. So this land became known as Gurjaratra, which was later short form to Gujarat. Thereafter, during the Bronze Age and Iron Age, which was from 4000 BC to 400 BC, we had the Indus Valley civilization, where we had two major sites, Dholavira in Kutch district and Lothal in Ahmedabad district. If you see the sites or you read about them, they were very advanced planning. In fact, they were, that time the sea used to come up, so there were seaports, there were shipbuilding yards there were sewage systems, piped water, various things. After that, we had the Maurya Empire, where Gujarat was part of it, from 323 to about 100 BC, when the lesser Mauryas were ruling Gujarat. We had the Indo-Scythians for about 300 years, from 1st century AD onwards. Thereafter, we had the Sakas, whose greatest ruler was Gompi Putra, Satakami. We moved to the Middle Kingdom, which is from 230 AD to 1206, where we had the Gupta Empire from the 4th century to the 5th century. Thereafter, we had the Matrikara Kingdom, which were the ancestors of the Gohils. They were ruling over Gujarat and Malwa, and they had their capital at a place called Valbipur. And they were very renowned for the university in Valbipur, which was equivalent to the Nalanda University. Unfortunately, the Matrikaras were conquered by the Gurjara Pratiharas, and Vallabhi was totally destroyed. They say 30,000 people were massacred after the siege of Valbipur. One of the queens survived, and as she was on a pilgrimage to Varanasi, and on the return, near Eider in Gujarat, she came to know about the massacre. So she took shelter with a Brahmin family, and as she was pregnant, she delivered a son there in one of the caves. So that is how the name Gohil came, Guha, born in a cave. Raja Guha then conquered a small territory there, and then his son, his progeny, moved to Chittor, where Bapa Rawal conquered the Chittor fort from the Mori kings, who were actually Mauryas, lesser Mauryas. Allied himself with all the Hindu rulers and kept the Muslim invaders at bay for 300 years. Such a crushing defeat was inflicted on the Muslims that no Muslim tried to enter Gujarat up till 1000 and something, when Muhammad Ghazni plundered Somnath. During the 9th century, the elder son in Chittor, they were known as Gohilots only, Gohilots. They were not known as Sisodias till then. The elder son got into a dispute with his father. His name was Shalivan. So he moved with his certain followers and they went to the Thar desert, place called Kheragarh near Balotra and Pachpadra. And they ruled there for 20 generations, they say. After the second battle of Thaneshwar, because Kannauj had been demonized, so Raja Jayachand's grandson, Sioji, decided to migrate away from Kannauj and he moved to Kheragarh, to the Thar desert, and killed the Raja there, Mohadas ji, who was one of my ancestors. His grandson, Tejak ji, moved with the remaining Gohils and they were given shelter by the Raul of Sorat. Now, I'll just explain to you the map of Gujarat so you can understand. This is the present day Gujarat and these are the districts. There was a map of the old ancient Gujarat, but it was too complicated, so I went with this present map, where you can see this is Narabda district where Rachipla is. This is Bhavnagar. Now, Gujarat that time was divided and still is into three distinct parts. One is the Saurashtrian or Kathiawar Peninsula. The second is the salt flats and marshy land of the Run of Kutch. Third is the plains of Gujarat. There's North Gujarat, Central Gujarat, and South Gujarat. Now, Saurashtra was divided into Sorat, which is Junagadh and Porbandar. This area was known as Sorat, and this was that time under the sway of the Raul of Sorat, who were Chudasma Rajputs. This Devbhumi, Dwarka, Jamnagar, and Morbi, Rajkot, and Kutch. This was known as, Kutch was separate, but up till here was known as Halal. And this all were under the sway of the Jadeja Rajputs. I hope you have heard of the Jadejas. There were Ranjit Singh and Duleep Singh who were the great cricketers, and there was Ajay Jadeja, and they were also rulers of Jamnagar, Rajkot, Morbi, and Kutch. Then there was Jhalawar, which is present-day Surendranagar district. And thereafter there was Gohilwar, which was this Botad, Bhavnagar, Amreli district. Then we have the Kutch and the salt flats of the Run of Kutch. This is the Little Run. This is the Greater Run. We have an international boundary of 700 kilometers with Pakistan. We have a sea coast, which is the longest sea coast in India of 1600 kilometers, out of which about 1400 are in Saurashtra. Northern Banaskantha is like the Thar desert. It is totally arid and sandy, and Patan is something like arid zone but flat, no sand dunes. This part is where the farming, rich in farming, this area, and on the eastern side is the Adivasi belt, right from where I'm showing my pointer till the south up till Valsad, the Dangs, where we had thick forests and the tribal population staying in this area. As you can see, Narabda comes under this area as a Chota Udaipur, this whole area, Mahisagar, Ambaji, etc. This I'm showing you the just the towns of Gujarat. I wanted to show you where Rajpipla is. This is Rajpipla, and this is Bhavnagar. Now I'll go further with the history. Sejak Ji was given 12 village Jagir in this area. His grandson, thereafter, Mokraji Goel. He was a great warrior. He is known as Veer Mokraji Goel. He conquered what is known as Goelwar today, and he established his kingdom at an island, Piram, off the coast of Bhavnagar, where he died fighting with the armies of Muhammad Tughlaq, his general Juma Khan. He had two sons. The elder son stayed back in Bhavnagar, while the younger son went to what is known as Rajpipla now, as his maternal grandfather had a small kingdom there. He was the Chok Rana Parmar from the imperial Ujjain dynasty. He was one of the offshoots. They had a small kingdom in Rajpipla. Raja Bhoj, if you have heard, that dynasty. And his daughter was married to Mokraji Gohel. So he sought shelter with his maternal grandfather. On the death of his maternal grandfather, as he had no issues, my ancestor, Kamarji Gohel, ascended the throne of Rajpipla in 1403. That was the time when the Sultans of Gujarat were asserting their sway over Gujarat. So Sultan Ahmad Shah was attacking constantly this area. Raja Samarji Gohil died fighting against the armies of Sultan of Gujarat, and his son Gamal Singh Ji was forced to flee from the capital, and Rajpipla was occupied by the Sultan's army. He died in 1413, and his son Vijay Dev Ji recovered back the kingdom of Rajpipla, and that is when he made a vow that Rewa Ji ne Kaanthe, which you will see on our crest, where it's written Rewa Ji ne Kaanthe. That means on the banks of the river Narabda. He vowed that we will not leave the banks of the river Narabda, come what may. And he gave this vow to all his progeny that come what may, you will not leave the banks of the river Narabda. This is the map of Narabda district, today's present map. And as you can see, this is where Rajpipla is. Here, this is the Karjan Dam, and this is the Narabda River, which flows from Amarkantak in Madhya Pradesh to Bharuch in Gujarat. This is the river Narmada, which flows. There is the Uttar Vahini in Rajpipla, which is considered very sacred. To have the parikrama of the Uttar Vahini, people come from all over India on Somvati Amvas. After Vijaydev captured Rajpipla back, he used guerrilla warfare, which will be very significant when I talk later. And thereafter, on his death, his son Hari Singh Ji was again attacked by Sultan Ahmad Shah. But he remained as an outlaw, what we call a Barwatiya, for 12 years. When he saw the right time, he again recaptured his domain of Rajpipla in 1440. This is just unfortunately, this is all that remains of the fort. As you can see, overgrown, and all the stones and everything has been removed because this was abandoned. And this is known as Dev Chhatra. This was the mountain fortress of Dev Chhatra. Once Hari Singh Ji recaptured Rajpipla, there was comparative peace. The sultans did not really interfere in their day-to-day administration and everything. And we shifted our capital again from this to Jumaraj. Again, you can see this is again in ruins because this came under the Karjan River Dam. And the local Adivasis removed all the stones and everything from the fort before it was submerged. And during the submergence, natural wear and tear, this is all unfortunately the remains of the old capital of Rajpipla. I will now come to Raja Bhairo Singh Ji, who was the ruler at the time when Akbar attacked Chittorgarh, and the third sack of Chittor took place. Before the third sack, Maharana Uday Singh Ji had moved out with his family from there on the advice of his Umraus, and he had established the today's modern day city of Udaipur. But after the third sack, Akbar told his general Hyder Tuli Khan to find Maharana Uday Singh and his family dead or alive. Maharana Uday Singh thought it prudent to move out of Mewar, so he sent a message to his kinsman, the Raja of Rajpipla. The Raja welcomed him with open arms and great hospitality. It is a distance of about 500 kilometers to in those days, thick mountainous territory. Somewhere from here, they came to Sabarkantha, like this, and in Panchmahal, a place called Lunawada. Now I'll just digress. Like in Rajasthan, you had titles of Maharana, Maharaja, Hakunta, and Yuvraj and all. In Saurashtra, it was known as Raul, and in Gujarat, they were known as Raja. And the eldest son was known as the Patvi Kunwar, and rest of the sons were just known as Kunwar till the 5th generation. Then they were known by their clan name. We didn't have Kanwar or Bhavar, Kanwar. We had Rajas, Rauls, Thakurs, and in Saurashtra we had Darbar Sahib, who were slightly lesser than the Thakurs in their territory, etc. So this was the capital where Bhairo Singh Ji was staying. He sent his son, Patvi Kunwar Prithviraj Singh, to receive the Maharana and his family And I will add that time Yuvraj Pratap Singh, Maharana Pratap, was accompanying his father, and he escorted them from Lunawada to Dunaraj, this place. And Maharana Pratap and Maharana Uday Singh and the family, they stayed in Rajpipla for 2 years. But during this time, Muhammad Tuli Khan came to know about the shelter which Maharana Uday Singh had been given by the Raja of Rajpipla. He pursued him till Rajpipla and tried to capture him, but he failed. So he laid waste entire plains area of Rajpipla, Nandod, that is province of Nandod. This is again one of the talukas today of Nandod. He laid waste the entire place, but he was frustrated in his attempt because Raja Bhairo Singh moved with his guests and his own family to the old fortress, mountain fortress of Dev Khatra. And it was in a truly insurmountable area, inaccessible, and it could easily the forces sent to capture were outmaneuvered and ambushed, and they were always frustrated. I will add here that Maharana Pratap learned guerrilla warfare, watching the how the Rohils frustrated the Muslim invaders with the help of the Bhil tribals. So when Maharana Uday Singh left Mewar, he exchanged his turban with Raja Bhairo Singh and he gave him the title of Maharana, which our family till today has the title of Maharana. As I said, this title was not there in Gujarat, but our family has got the title of Maharana from Maharana Uday Singh, who gave him the title when he went to Dwarka to persuade Mirabai to come back to Mewar, unsuccessfully, if I may add. In 1705, the Mughal Empire had started to shake. So one of my ancestors, Maharaj Jeet Singh Ji, recaptured the province of Nandod from the Mughals, and in 1730 shifted his capital to present-day Rajpipla, where the first palace was built in 1730. As you can see, this is entirely made of wood and chuna, and all the Rajas were born here from 1730 onwards till 1868, when this palace was built, Chhatravilas Palace, by my great-grandfather. He was a very progressive ruler. There is no time, so I will not go into that. But he had made this palace and stayed in it, and he was very fond of cars. So you can see the array of cars which were there in the Rajpipla garages at that time. This was the last palace built in Rajpipla in 1942. So my ancestors left two mottos, Rewa ji ne kaathe and Ghair the, ane jin takht the. That means the saddle is my home and the saddle is my throne. We have been protecting a lot of times successfully, sometimes not so much, but we have never left the banks of the river Rewaji or Narabda. And we have protected our people and our culture and our religion against the onslaught of the Muslims right from time of 1347 till 1705, when we defeated the armies of Aurangzeb in the Battle of Ratanpur. and thereafter the Marathas were there, and it's a different story. So I hope it was slightly enlightening. I know there was not sufficient time to go through the entire thing. Actually, Gujarat is an architectural marvel. We have some outstanding pieces of. There was no time to show you the stepwells or the palaces and the darbar guards. But next time when we get the opportunity, I will try and cover that also. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was a privilege talking to you about my ancestral place, Rajpitla. Over to you, Deepak.
Thanks, Zach. I have one question from Pradeep. Is Rajpipla connected to the Kuch Bihar family?
Rajpitla, as far as I know, we are not connected to the Kuch Bihar family.
No,
No, I don't think so.
not
Okay.
connected
I am
to the
connected
Bihar
to
family.
Bonnie's grandfather, maternal grandfather was from Rajpitla. That much I
Yeah.
can say. His mother was my Buasa, and Pushpender's great grandfather, maternal great grandfather, was again from Rajpitla.
To answer that question about Kuch Bihar, the family of Baroda is connected to Kuch Bihar.
Yeah. Maharani Gayatri Devi's mother was from Baroda,
From Baroda, that's right.
married in Kuch Bihar.
Yeah. Thanks, Zach. For your talk, you've covered a huge amount of ground in this session on Gujarati heritage and your family history. Unfortunately, I think we could have gone on a lot longer in understanding your history and appreciating that. As we've discussed, I'm also from Gujarat, from Kutch. And I've also enjoyed our discussions. It's been a journey for me as well. So thank you very much. Unfortunately, we've run out of time and need to conclude at least the serious part of this session. I'd like to say a huge thank you to our speakers for their extremely interesting and erudite sessions. You were all brilliant. Last but not the least, there have been others working behind the scenes on this event. As usual, Pradeep Bhatnagar is the font of all our knowledge on our batch. We had DG helping, Arvind in support, Alok, Anil, Jags, Neeraj, Rahul, and Rajiv. Thank you to you all. We have other future events planned, but really, if you have any suggestions, please let myself or Pradeep know, because we want to make this as inclusive and interesting as possible. So now I'll close this sort of formal session, and we can have our informal fellowship session and our discussions. I hope most of you will carry on staying, at least spend some time and share your thoughts with your batchmates and the speakers and so on. Thank you very much, everyone. Over to you guys.
I was just suggesting that if there are any questions, it would be best if they could be sent to us later also. We'd be quite happy to answer them, so not to take too much of time of everyone.
Yeah, Bonnie, I was quite interested because in fact, all three of you speakers, because when I've been around and visiting places, for example, I mentioned I was from Kutch. I went to Dholavira, and for me it was a shame, because if you go there, I mean, when I was at Mayo, I was fascinated by the Indus Valley civilization, and that was one of my dreams to visit some place, Mohenjo-daro and so on. Of course, that's not possible now, but I managed to see Dholavira, and it's in ruins. There was no one looking after it, you know. So it's great what you guys are doing, but how do we stop this heritage? I mean, some of the slides that Zach showed, things are crumbling. What do we do about it?
That's a very big issue, I would say, because as talking of Shekhawati, a lot of land mafias have got involved, breaking up these Havelis now, buying them from the business families, destroying them and making them into shopping complexes for money. So we have been after the governments, but unfortunately, the present government doesn't understand it. Vasundhara did understand it, and she wanted to pass a heritage law in Rajasthan, especially, and make Shekhawati one of the model areas to start with the law. We are still battling with it. It's going to be very difficult because the politicians don't want it. It's their money. But we have to work on it. Otherwise, tourism will be lost from Rajasthan if these heritage are destroyed.
I have a question. How far is Dunlod from Jaipur and how do you get there?
Just about nowadays, the roads are absolutely excellent. We are just about 2.5 hours, I would say 2 hours from Jaipur via Sikar on the Bikaner highway, very close. We have the airport soon coming up in Jhunjhunu also, which will be wonderful. So we are very close. And I hope one day we'll be able to get everyone together at Dunlod.
Thank you. That'll be great.
Just a note to add, I've actually been and enjoyed
Yes.
Bonnie's hospitality in Dunlod. It's a fabulous experience. Even though I've not had the pleasure of being shown around UK by the Duke of Edinburgh, but going around with Bonnie, I believe would beat any experience. Going around Dunlod with Bonnie would beat going around with the Queen or the Duke of Edinburgh in UK. It's absolutely amazing experience.
Thanks, Arvind. But I must add here, Arvind and me together worked on a small documentary for a lady from the States. And it was a story about two batchmates from Mayo. One goes off from Mayo all the way abroad, becomes a well-known doctor, and one stays back to find his passion here. It was a great story with both of us working on it together. It was wonderful. Thank you.
It was very nice. And in between, we camped at night at some of the places where Bonnie's horse safaris stop. And
Yes.
it gives you an experience that it's going to be a rough drive, but I was amazed that you sit by the fire at about 6 o'clock in the evening, you're served drinks there, followed by a very nice dinner. And then after that, when you go to sleep at the morning, 6 o'clock, you're woken up by a bed tea, all in the middle of nowhere in a tent. It was amazing.
Thank you, Arvind.
So, Bonnie, may I
Yes.
ask you a question?
Yes.
So, Bonnie, when you do these expeditions, typically how many people are there riding with you?
We try and keep it up to maximum 12 because I ride with all my groups and then I have a boy as a backup. So we are about nearly 15 horses together. And in this desert, it's a lot of sand up and very dusty for people. So we try and keep it up to 12. But I have to say, I have had the experience of having 27 riders on the Millennium time together. But I had to divide the groups in 3 bits so that we could, ride in 3 different batches. But we camped together, stayed together. It was fun.
So how do you set them up? I mean, what kind of hospitality do you give these riders?
No, we have, well, interestingly enough, for 12 to 15 people, we have a staff of 40 people who are with us doing this because we have our horse staff, we have our kitchen staff, the trucks, the equipment, the tenting staff, the cleaners, the toilets. And so we have a staff of 40. And we set up our camp, which is quite comfortable, I must say, because we started dealing with American clients, and you know how they are. So we have beds, furniture, everything in the tent. But the toilets are in mobile vans now, and we have to move. While the time we're having breakfast, our staff takes the tents down, packs them up in the trucks, and goes ahead. And we then, of course, ride up to the next camp. And we use a lot of heritage properties. We have used practically all the heritage properties in Rajasthan, right from Alsisar, Mandawa, Navalgarh, Khimsar, Rohit, Samod. We use all these properties so that we can even use the properties like one day property, one day camp, one day property, or sometimes only camps. It depends like that.
So what I'm trying to understand is, uh, people who are riding with you don't have to finish the ride and start pitching up tents.
No, no, that only happens in
DJ,
Jordan.
DJ, you arrive at the place, the tent is there, your suitcase is in the tent, and it's a one-person place. Next morning after breakfast, you ride on, and when you arrive at the next venue, your suitcase is in your tent, and everything is set out for you. So it's basically you just have to cover the right side of it. Fortunately, I was even spared the riding side of it, so I got the ride a camel cart. So I didn't have to rough it, but you just arrive there and everything is there for you, and they transport everything to the next venue.
Arvind, if I recall right, you were not there in 2010 when we had that 50-year-old.
I missed it.
Sorry, not 50, 40-year-old. Yeah. So at that time, Bonnie made an announcement. He said, anyone who can get on to a bloody horse, he's going to get a glass of bubbly. This was 10 years ago, huh? So if DG is leading us into saying that we are going to be one of the 12 that is going to ride with him, DG, you're on your own.
Listen, I don't want to be a captain sore ass.
Yes.
I would like to propose while we are all hearing, for Bonnie to sort of, I don't want to, it shouldn't be financially heavy on him, but it'd be good sort of to go there in the winter. Bonnie is the tour guide. We bring our booze and we stay with Bonnie, and he shows us around all that he's been talking about.
In his Jeep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In his Jeep, boss. I'm not getting on a horse.
It's not a horse.
I don't like heights. The horses are so tall. They don't have seat belts, boss. I was very worried. So Bonnie said, you ride this camel cart and I will accompany you on the horse. So that's how we covered the whole thing.
No, that was long ago, yeah. How long ago was that, Arvind?
That was about 8 years ago, Bonnie.
There you go.
9 years ago.
Yeah,
yes.
8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not
No, it was absolutely, Neil, everyone's most welcome. We will organize it for everyone. Jeeps, horses, camel carts, whatever you like. Not to worry. Anytime.
I don't think anybody can ride a horse except you, Bonnie, frankly. And especially long distance, maybe 10 minutes. After that, impossible.
DG will have to be on the horse.
Yeah. On the horse.
Leading the charge. Leading the charge.
Ravin, do you remember Havildar Hanuman Singh and the broad horse and the long horse and all those other things?
Yes, very much.
Were you able to do that?
I could do, I think, the long one, not the broad one. Yeah, Bonnie, I remember your dancing horses at our 40th.
Thanks,
Beautiful.
That's
show.
If we do get together at Dunlod, we will do a horse show here on our field also, and that'll be great fun for everyone.
Yeah.
Bonnie, just one question. Can we get somebody, one of us in the batch, one of you guys, explain to us all of Rajputana, this Mewar versus Marwar versus Kuchwahas.
We can do that anytime you want, anytime.
And Pradeep, I was reminded of our visit to Byawar and to your home and visiting your family, your dad and brother, and the homes you showed, visiting, actually staying there. Beautiful. Yeah, very reminiscent.
So Pradeep,
I remember two of our visits to you, Pradeep.
Are you in Delhi or in Byawar?
I visited Pradeep too. I visited Pradeep home.
I'm in Jaipur right now.
Jaipur.
And Ravin, do you remember Pradeep's marriage?
I was not there at the marriage.
You were there at the marriage, Ravin. You and I went together.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, I was. I'm sorry. I do remember.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm mixing up.
So what is this about Ajay Dadwal? Is still on there and his halwa?
Pradeep can explain the whole thing. The whole thing was so hilarious. Pradeep, can you explain the whole? Your friend Subhash, I remember.
Yeah. He was जैसा कि अपने राजस्थान में होता है कि बड़े मनवार करके खिलाते हैं, सो ही वाज बहुत मनवार कर रहे थे, हलवा खाओ, ये खाओ। तो दाल रियली गॉट वेरी हर्ट बाय हिम। बोले
Not only that,
खा लिया, आप क्या खिलाएगा? बोले नहीं नहीं खाओ आप। तो बोले अच्छा, तो तू भी खाओ, तुम भी खाओ। तो उसने ठीक है, हम तो देखते हैं फिर कौन ज्यादा खाता है। अब दोनों ने शुरू किया खाना। Now Ajay thought that I am going to lose, so he started some other strategy. He started saying, "अरे अभी और कितना लाओ लाओ भाई, अभी हम खाएंगे, अभी और लाओ." And my friend Subhash thought, गए अपने, अब we are going to, I am going to lose. So that way, Subhash did lose and Ajay won, and he spoiled me in the whole competition.
I think Subhash
Typical
kept
dad cheating in this competition also. Hiding his face here.
This, Pradeep.
saying कि ये दिल्ली वाले क्या खाएंगे, हम ब्यावर वाले खा के दिखाते हैं, all that. And दाद पे आ गया गुस्सा, दाद को गुस्सा आ गया, and he really took over.
Alok, you were supposed to speak today too, Alok Toshiwal?
No, I'll speak some other time. Not today. The 3 is enough. Yeah, 3 is enough. But I think 2 is also more than enough.
Yeah, probably 2 is
Speakers are enough.
time effective.
So
I
very
think
full
I
of,
think
full of
Mr. Devesher is up for the next one.
Yeah.
Tilak and Alok. Next one.
Yeah, I
Sure.
think Mr. Devesher has got something to say in the next one.
Oh,
We'll be
lots.
watching out. We'll check out all the facts that you bring out. Okay.
I like to
But
say
I'm just
something,
saying,
DG, if you permit me. I like to say
I would
something
say
at this
about
time.
Rathi, I would say that he did a very good talk, and at his age to remember all these things, it's amazing.
Listen, I think
58
page
is
3
like
wants to say
you,
something.
Yeah, Tiku wanted to say. Tiku, go for it.
No, he's not Tiku. He's page 3.
Oh.
Shut up. I was just listening to the three of you, to Bonnie, to Rati, and to Zach. And since I've been to writing, and this is on a more serious note, there's so much of a rich history. There's so much of which people just don't know about. And just from people from the school, if you add to what these three said, and you add what Vijay Singh would have to say, Tiny, what Govind Singh would have to say, there's so much of rich heritage, culture, history, political history, military history. Maybe after I finish my current writing in the next 2 or 3 years, I'll spend some time in Rajasthan with you guys. Look at what material is available, archival material you guys have. How much of it can be translated or how much of it is available, which one can look at. And then try and put down a different kind of history of Rajasthan. Not the normal dynastic history, not the normal Mughals versus the Mewar, Marwar, not like that. But something very different history and culture of Rajasthan based on people from school. So just an idea that came to me while the three of you were speaking. And I said, let me just put it on the table, and maybe 3-4 years down the road, I'd love to come and spend time with each of you guys and see what can be done.
But Tiku, will you be willing to share royalty?
I don't need royalty, Deej. It's so pathetic how much royalty.
No, I don't know. I just think that we guys are schoolmates, and you need to share.
Yeah, sure. You take it all. It's 8% of the price of a book. So if a book is priced at 600 rupees,
okay,
I
so
get $48 per book.
So 2% each, yeah. It doesn't hurt.
Sure.
DG
for you a power.
A power for every book. Together for the richness of the experience, not for you to retire to Cayman Islands. Yeah, this is just to actually get your richness will come in the experience of reading it, not bloody getting money from it.
Correct.
Rubbish. This guy's going to make big money, and Bonnie, be careful. Make your terms very clear when you stand out and give information.
Tilak, I have at my Dunlop library, I have nearly more than 300 handwritten books which are with me. And I've been trying to get hold of the government to say, can we make microfilms of this? And they keep saying yes, but they never do it. And they are in the library here, and I would love to share them with you if they are of. I'm sure
They
will
are
be of
in.
some importance.
So Bonnie,
What language are they in?
Work?
What script are they in?
Intact work? Did you have to create, or did they come on their own?
Sorry, some of them are in the Devanagari script. Some of them are in the script where Hindi was written, in the one line. So you have to have someone who can translate them a little bit. But they are very valuable. And my grandfather was fond of history. He wrote books on
First
history.
year, why don't you scan them?
Yeah,
Why
I was
don't you
going to
get them
suggest,
scanned?
Bonnie, in fact, what you did with the architecture, if you advertise for 1 or 2 or 3 students from overseas to come and spend a month for you and digitize all the books for you.
Oh my God,
I mean, students of literature, student of history, student of culture from any of the Western European countries would love to come and do it. It will be a project. I mean, people could do their dissertation on it. I think it will be very useful to have, and they will digitize the whole thing for you. You can either just get a scanner and do it.
Idea.
And if you're talking about the business houses and their presence in Shekhawati, you can get them also to shut up.
Right.
Tilak, how many books have you authored, Tilak? Total?
I've done 3 on my own. I've edited 2 more. I'm writing my 4th book and I'm editing my 3rd book.
Very nice. So you need to come and speak with all of us and share all your, smartness and knowledge and all the things with us.
Yeah, sure. Maybe 2-3 years
I
after
think you
this
guys,
COVID thing
I think you
blows
guys
over.
are overrating Tikuya. I really think so.
Funny.
I mean, the guy's made grammatical errors in his books,
Shut up,
and no one's picked it up because they think he's now become an author. I mean, take it easy, guys. He's just one of us.
DJ Singh, आपका तो भाई साहब, we still remember your homework when you said मौसम सुहाना था, कंद मूल लटक रहे थे. And when looking at my script where I wrote वो जुआ खेल रहा था, you copied it as वो चूहा खेल रहा था. आप भी तो भाई साहब स्कॉलर हो, आप उसको क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हो.
देखिए ऐसा है,
Arvind,
Tilak shouldn't take his authorship too seriously. Yeah.
Who does? Yeah, I don't take it seriously. Feet are totally on the ground, Deej.
Arvind, you have a memory of a chuha, yaar. How can you remember all this?
जो हमारे दोस्त हमारी कॉपी कर रहे थे नोटबुक से, उनका तो याद है.
वो भी गलत
कर रहे हैं. नहीं भाई, Tiku, I think taking your idea further, if you ask these guys, the ones who have the knowledge of areas, to submit chapters and you edit it, that will be even more interesting.
Yeah.
Before doing that, I would like to see what is available. I don't want to start on a venture which may not have the publisher may say, no, this is marketing. So first I do a general survey to see what is available, what is possible, talk to the publisher and then ask people to contribute and whatever.
Yeah, I think that you get the lay of the land first and find out exactly what the market is for and then do it. But it will be a very good idea if you took on the project to putting it together.
You see, like for example, Rathi is talking about 10 generations here. Who remembers or recalls 10 generations?
Unbelievable.
Likewise,
here comes our school captain.
Bonnie, and then likewise Zach. The kind of richness of history and culture. So it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah, DG, where did we miss out on education? Yeah, look at
I'm just
presentation. DG.
I'm just saying that Tiku's taking his authorship too seriously. That's all my limited point is. You're still the same stupid guy we knew.
Obviously, yeah, we're not going to change, especially with schoolmates. Nobody changes with schoolmates. We are all as we were 50 years ago. That's the great thing about meeting on these Zoom meetings because we all take off from where we left.
Yeah.
These 50 years as if it doesn't matter,
Govind, go ahead and speak, yeah.
Good evening, all of you.
Good evening.
Nice.
Raja Sahab ki jai ho.
Wonderful presentation by 3 of them, 3 of our friends. And I'm very much interested in culture, history, and upkeep of politics. whole lot of what Bonnie is doing is a wonderful thing. We are all proud of him. And coming from Shekhawati estates, mine is Khandela, which was a former capital in Shekhawati, historical capital of Shekhawats.
क्या बात है?
Well, I am settled in Jaipur. About me, I am settled in Jaipur, having my father having left Khandela long years back, and of course he's no more. But I'm holding my little place here in Jaipur. And if I may ask you to recollect, when we were in Bharpur House, a small group had visited Jaipur during 1965 or something.
64. 64. We came to your place. Yeah.
So you would that you stayed up at my place.
Yes.
Khandela House, just outside the city walled city area, is my old house, ancestral house.
64.
So it was a pleasure. But I wonder, any of you who had been there were having any photographs? It would be wonderful to share those.
No, I don't have any photograph of that time.
And you don't recognize.
I think that was when Queen Elizabeth visited India.
That was another trip.
64 was, we went during the Dashera holiday break, and later on that same term ended, the Pope came, and we had to be held back because the Pope was, there was some train with lafda ho gaya, So we saw Ajanta mein, we saw Dosti. I remember we saw Dosti. It was a legendary film of that time, December 64. But in Jaipur, we saw I Milan Ki Bela when we went and stayed in Khandela, the Bharatpura's guy.
My God, what memory.
Another thing I would like to suggest, this is about a book by Tilak could be, we could all inspire him to come up with a Mayo coffee table book.
No
coffee. I think he should do it.
Mayo's not.
I really think he should do it.
I would give an outline of the chapter wise, a kind of an outline of that book, coffee table book.
No, yeah, not coffee table. Coffee table is very,
It would be very costly, of course.
Publishing but Tiku can afford it. He's an author.
But it is something that has to be done. It is connecting with your Lelma to your memories and generations. So this is one subject with a Western kind of outlook and education, and recollecting the British time and our culture being affected.
Tiku, do you have something to say?
So
Govind, you mentioned this earlier also, but the subject is very limited. Govind, the subject is very limited. It will be for a niche audience.
You history of a whole lot of 4-5 generations studying at Mayo. One thing, and the British connection in the education of our former ruler, aristocratic elite. Now, after the independence, we are all commoners, along with so many families. Now imbibing that education.
I think, Tiku, you need to think about it.
Yeah. Certainly, I think I very much, would give you a good bit of material, and the material would be found in a museum, in our museum archives. Yeah.
Okay, let me give it a thought, but I would rather do the Rajasthan one first before limiting it to a Mayo.
That's absolutely right. They will not be the same market for the Mayo book. There'll be more for Rajasthan.
Yeah,
it's okay. He can make it for us.
Yeah.
You
connect it. Whole lot of so many classes, batches rather.
No, make it for our batch only.
Yeah. I think or include C1 Science A and B along with HS3. Okay, so Tiku, you've got a limited mandate on this one. So go figure.
HS3
Tilak sir, you really must take up this book. I think this is one book we should work out outlining.
Yeah,
getting
okay, Govind,
too many
not just
situations of.
now. Govind, not
So,
just now, maybe after some time, after a couple of years.
okay, you can be given an outline, of course. You can go through that, and I've got a good bit of library autobiographies, and father, grandfather's time. And I would ask you someday when you visit Jaipur to go through my collection, my ancestral books collection.
With pleasure.
You will
So
find a
your
good bit of
collection is in
material.
Jaipur or in Kandela? Is it in Jaipur or
In
in
Jaipur,
Kandela?
I'm based in Jaipur. In Jaipur, I'm based in Jaipur. So I've got a good bit of collection of British period, on education. खास तौर से तो education पर I'd ask you to focus on. And because this is one subject really connects us, we are we are Indians first, and we have transformed ourselves through this education, westernized education. We have to agree with
Absolutely
transform.
agreed with that.
So it's like how families have affected their culture.
Go in 1 minute. I'll have to go. Yeah, I'm pretty tired.
Okay, for you, good night. And a
Please
little
excuse me
sad
because
more.
the privilege talking
Bye,
to
Zach.
you. And really
Thanks a lot.
outstanding. Good night to
Zach,
you.
you had a very fascinating talk.
No, I wish I could. It was the topic. The subject was too vast. The timeline was too much. I couldn't really give justice, but I tried to cover as much as possible in that short period. Anyway, thanks a lot.
It was a lovely presentation by you, Yeshoraj.
Thanks.
It was a lovely, and Boni Bhai and Pradeep Ratiji. Wonderful.
Yeah, it was also outstanding. I would like to thank Deepan, Pradeep Bhatnagar, and Anil for all the help they've given me. Good night, gentlemen. Take care. Stay safe.
Good night.
I too would like to take leave,
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Yeah, I
All right, Pradeep.
Wonderful, wonderful.
गोविंद अपना नाम चेंज कर लेना इधर गैलेक्सी लिखा हुआ आ रहा है गोविंद
That's his phone.
Another phone.
I didn't even know he was on the
Galaxy
I
M31
don't have a laptop presently. Well, I'll have got it someday.
And Govind, you will start preparing for the next session.
My subject, if I could touch a little bit on history, my own Khandela history is a very ancestral account of historical account is very glorious and somewhat, aligning ourselves with the Mughals though. Quite apart from the Bewar family, which was of course very unique. Their glorious history was also glorious, but we aligned. It was a
2-3 months later we'll call you up.
So I will have written something and then somehow presented an account of the Khandela family dynastically.
We'll look forward to that. We'll look forward to that. I think PL Joshi put any interest in history to an end for me. And I think all this is so exciting. I now find how interesting history can be. But I still remember those classes in the museum in the lower right side, which was subsequently taken over Mr. Banwari Lal Sharma. PL Joshi, where Aryans came from somewhere over here, has completely put me off learning history. Whereas now I find it very interesting. I enjoyed the Dundod history. I enjoyed Pradeep's.
He used to keep raising his trousers and saying,
Yeah, he was more busy lifting his trousers up than teaching history, and because of that, he couldn't point to something high on the board either.
He was, go like that and bring it
up. Exactly.
You're slightly aged.
Even Randu was no better. He taught us, R.N. Yadav taught us history.
You're slightly aged, isn't it?
Mr. YPB taught us history in a very interesting way. Indeed.
Not my class. Not my class.
YP Bhardwaj was a great historical history teacher.
No, YP Bhardwaj he was social studies for us, and he used to ask us the topic. And once we chose mafia assassins, and he had a full 1 hour class on how mafia organizes assassinations. He was a brilliant guy.
From the 10th, we were in the high secondary, whereas you people in the ISC.
Yes.
And we have 4 of us, Pradeep Rathi, myself, and Pradeep Bhattagar, and who else? And Narendra Rupani, I'd like to say hello to him if he's there. Long years. And of course, Ajay Mehta sir was there. He was the house captain. And then after you people having passed in November, it was in March, or rather, I mean, a term I was as a house captain there. And I had the privilege of getting the shield, Udaipur shield for the house. All round merit.
No, we all knew members of our own houses except BT House people. Everybody knew who was in BT House.
Yeah.
they were unusually friendly people or notorious people. I mean,
notorious is more like it.
You knew people of your own house and you knew people of BT House.
Yeah. Arvind, I get the hint very clearly from you.
I mean, when Bonnie and I met, because Bonnie was in BT House, he knew me better than any of the Rajasthan House people, because we knew all of them very well.
But you were together in Bharatpur also.
Yeah.
Thanks, Deepak. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thanks, everyone.
Now, guys.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much, everything.
Fantastic, Bonnie.
guys.
Yeah, once again, wonderful job. All 3 of you guys, outstanding. Such a wealth of knowledge to understand you so much better, you know. A 3-dimensional figure emerge karta hai. Otherwise, you just, you know, you don't know too much of each other. I think each one of us has a story.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Good night, guys.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you very much.